Please welcome to the stage Philadelphia Sisters co-founder and president Alex Sykes with project-level managing partner and head of investments Jason Wright in conversation with Dalila Wilson-Scott.
Welcome, Alex and Jason.
Hello.
I think I don't have to tell you too, when you're in Philadelphia, there's going to be a lot of enthusiasm for the topic of sports. So looking forward to the conversation. From a Comcast perspective, we think a lot about sports. It's so much a part of our legacy. It's also a part of our success at the end of the day. We're coming up on World Cup season, which of course is aired on Telemundo. We have NBA back on NBC, Olympic, Paralympics, you name it. And of course, Unrivaled, which will be right here in Philadelphia. It's a big part of everything we stand for. But I think big picture, when we think about sports, there are very few genres that have the ability to unite people across so many different lines. I mean, the impact is undeniable. When it comes to young people in particular, and I think that's where we're invested from a social impact perspective, it's opportunity for leadership, inclusion, there's cultural impact there, and of course, economic opportunity, which we're gonna be talking about today. So how women's sports can grow a city. According to research from McKinsey, Jason's alma mater actually, women's sports could generate at least $2.5 billion in value for rights holders in the United States by 2030. That's a 250% increase from the $1 billion generated just last year. So we're all here to learn more about the work you're both doing to unlock the potential of women's sports. Alex, let's start with you. Philly Sisters, how many know Philly Sisters in the room, of course? Started in 2019. Talk to us about that original vision for Philly Sisters.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much, for having me. I mean, the team is in the crowd somewhere, but very,
Ashley
very happy.
and Starla,
Ashley and
I know,
Starla,
are here.
You raise your hands, the Philadelphia Sisters. We could not be here without you. Proud of you, thank you. So it started basically, from, Unrivaled, like 2019, so the way it started, so my wife and I were talking, and she was living in LA, I was living here. I love this city, we love this city now, we call it home. And I was just like, one thing was missing though, I keep on asking her, why don't we have a team here in Philadelphia? Why don't we have a women's sports professional team here? And that was 6 years ago, and she's like, keep on hearing it. We were going to LA, watch the games, the WNBA, and WSL, and I kept asking her, and she's like, stop asking me, just, you. Yes. I'm like, do it, babe, and she's like, no, you do it, And she basically put it on me, and I'm like, that's actually a good question. Let's try, let's do it, and went to Starla and Ashley, and shared that dream, that big dream with them, and they were like, right away, they're like, absolutely, let's do it. And we're moms, we have jobs, we have businesswomen, we're not coming with anything, just us and our, passion for Philadelphia and, professional sports. And so we started, 6 years ago, just from scratch, not really knowing too many people, and actually.
But you made a lot of progress in a short amount of time.
So
what's different today?
Yeah, we made a lot of progress. I mean, back then, 6 years ago, women's sports, was almost seen as a charity. People are like, oh, I'm going to donate. Okay, yeah, we'll give you money. And we realized, we had to push awareness, why Philadelphia, the sixth largest city in the country, 7 million people living here, doesn't have a team. And we had to keep, asking that question. People were like, oh, that's true, actually. Why don't we have a team? So they would not even think about it, men and women. So we had to bring this awareness of, we need a team, we want a team, we want a team. And by repeating it over and over and over to all the stakeholders, we talked to, finally, it triggered something, and plus, of course, women's sports, started to grow.
And you garnered incredible support from the city, governor, all people that have gotten behind this effort.
Lara Price is here, very early on, promoter, of that, thank you, Lara. But the 76ers, Comcast, we definitely had, a lot of, people interested. The question was to connect all the dots, and
awesome.
That's how, we started really.
I mean, Alex is talking about building awareness, but before we came out here, she was very clear. We need more than awareness. Put your money behind, if you're excited about women's sports, put your money on the table. So just remember that. Jason, you come from the NFL, both on the field for a few years there, of course, in the front office as the president of Washington Commanders at McKinsey before that. What drew you to this space of women's sports?
Well, the first thing was personal. My family grew up LA Sparks season ticket holders. For the same reason that so many people now are gravitating towards women's sports, that it was at an affordable price point. It's the way my dad could afford to bring us together as a family. So my original heroes in sports were Lisa Leslie and Penny Toller, Haisha Zhang, Mwati Mabeka, Allison Feaster. Like, I knew that roster. And those were my heroes. And so it started there. And then professionally, sitting in the seat that I was in the NFL, you saw the way that major men's leagues struggled to capture the next generation of fans to become paying fans, not just casual viewers, and women's sports was capturing them. Post Caitlin Clark, there's been a surge of attention that's paired with the commercialization of sports overall, which has made them more viable business products. The better reach of female athletes on social media. They have 2 times the reach of men on social media because we trust them more. They can speak more eloquently across multiple topics. And then the momentum of youth sports. We're now 20 years into real money being spent on youth sports, especially girls' sports, and it's no longer a logical leap to pay for a Philadelphia WNBA season ticket, whereas before there was. And then the last one is social that drew me to this. 90+% of women in the C-suite were high school or college athletes. If you are a high school or college athlete as a woman, your likelihood of experiencing domestic violence in your life goes almost down to 0. And so between the personal, professional, and social impact, I was all in, and I got to work for an amazing woman named Melody Hobson at Ariel Investments, who seeded this fund and gave us the infrastructure to start this fund, and we're having a blast.
Yeah, let's talk about that project level. Melody Hobson, of course, Ariel founded by John Rogers, 2 of the best in the investor game. What is it, and why do you think we need this right now?
I mean, we are at a real inflection point in women's sports. Women's sports has grown 4.5 times the rate of men's sports in terms of revenue over the last 3 years. It's almost 4.3 times the growth in viewership over that same period of time. And it's post-Caitlin Clark effect that has continued to be in place. Every bit of growth has sustained over time. You look at valuations in the NWSL, Angel City was a $2 million expansion fee. 3 years later, Bay FC was at $53 million expansion fee, as well as Boston Legacy. We at the Denver Summit FC, our first investment, we paid $110 million earlier this year. Already this year, 8 months later, Atlanta just went in at $165 million. These rates are increasing at a rapid rate. And there's real value being created, and it's on solid business fundamentals as well. Just to give you a sense of how popular the WNBA is. You guys in Philly are a hockey town. You love the Flyers. Hockey is considered a major men's professional sport. The WNBA viewership was almost 3 times the average viewership of the NHL this year. Yet, there's still growth potential in this because NHL valuations are in the $2 billion, $2.2 billion is the average NHL valuation. The highest WNBA valuation is maybe a $450 million, the New York Liberty or the Golden State Valkyries. So there is this gap that exists. Despite the WNBA having 15% of overall NBA viewership, they only have 3% of the media contract value. So there is an arbitrage that is going to close in addition to the growth here that makes this a really viable commercial product.
And both of the pieces you just tapped into, I've heard you talked about before, but that growing economic opportunity sort of combined with that authentic passion people have for women's sports leads to, at the end of the day, a very successful and sustainable industry, right? Which is what we're looking to build here. Alex, let's go back to Unrivaled. First of all, how many people know what Unrivaled is? Okay. Awesome. 3v3 is no joke, but it's a new league featuring WNBA players. It's coming to Philadelphia, right at the Xfinity Mobile Arena, just to add. But can you tell us a little bit about the league and just the reaction to date? Because it's been pretty exciting here.
So the league was created by players for the players. It was a need of, most of the players, play the WNBA, and in the winter they would play, elsewhere, different countries around the world. And there were a need for them to stay here in the US and play. And that's what they bring. And Wanda and I were, in Miami and watching the game, passionate again about, that game and, the energy. And, the commissioner mentioned that she wanted to actually tour and, take the game out of, Miami and come, to New York or DC. They were looking into, areas. And we stopped her and we said, Mickey Lower, and we stopped her and said, how about Philadelphia? Why don't you come to Philadelphia? And she kind of looked at us and said, well, I never really thought about this. And I'm like, look, we have the most amazing fandom, in town. I mean, Philadelphia is known for the sports, right? There's no doubt, we all know, but men's sports. So we were talking to her, and actually we convinced her, her and her team to come. We said we're gonna, we unrolled, the red carpet for her. We brought her to the mayor. We brought, Comcast, which the mayor was fire, and she was huge, in pushing and promoting, women's sports, obviously. But we just had a whole day, except that we were supposed to run up, the rocky steps, but it poured rain that day, so we were in the car just hiding from the rain. But we had a great day, and and we gave them so much confidence of Philadelphia being able to do it. They actually gave us the green light, and it was a huge risk for them in a way because it hasn't been done. I mean, we haven't had women's sports since Dawn Staley, which 27 years ago when she was playing, And so for them to take the chance and to put Philadelphia on the map for us was huge because we have to bring people here. We have to show them that Philadelphia is ready for women's sports.
Absolutely. And it's not just that upfront excitement. I understand the tournament has sold over 16,000 tickets so far. So
that's the amazing
opportunity.
thing.
So Philly's showing up, putting money on the table.
That's what's amazing about Philadelphia is, we didn't really know. I mean, we felt like, it was going to happen, that the appetite for women's sports was big here, but we didn't know for sure. Nobody really knew. And we were still on stage. We had a big press conference, about a month and a half ago. We were still on stage. We sold 5,000 tickets within 20 minutes. And, for us, for somebody, we were on stage and somebody told us it was 5,000. I was like, I knew it. But we actually announced it on stage.
So good.
And, everybody was relieved. You could feel the energy, but, it was probably 1,500 people, on that, press conference, right in front of the city hall. And we're just so happy. We worked so hard, to make this happen. And so basically now, guys, if you want tickets, it's going to be complicated unless you get suites, because it's pretty much sold out, unless you want to sit in the rafters or get some suites if you want to come.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would love to. Yeah. Always be selling. This is great. Yes.
I'll give you my number.
Yes.
But
a great
so
opportunity
amazing.
for the players and obviously all the young people who get to see the action right
matters,
here.
For all the PYB, we're very close to them, and for all these players, women, girls and boys, it's we have daughters and sons. We want all of them to see these great athletes and players and talent. Here in town, we don't have to go hundreds of miles to see women's sports.
Definitely. And of course, that opportunity stoked, Jason, your original passion. You touched on Denver and the new expansion team, Women's Pro Soccer. Why Denver? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, happy to talk about it. We have two warehouse investments as we launched our fund. One is in League One Volleyball, which is a big youth sports business, 24,000 girls across the country, $100 million in revenue, solid business, and a professional league on top of it. In addition to that, we invested in Denver Summit FC, the expansion team that starts play next year. We made a selection of Denver because we believe that a women's team no longer has to lose money for years and then trade on a great multiple later. The commercial dynamics have shifted so much that you can make profit while running these teams, which is important, not just to have a sustainable business, but to pay women the salaries that they deserve, to allow things to grow in the way that they should. It's unconscionable that they make what they make now. We model in rapid growth in women's athletes' salaries when we model in our investments to make sure it still ties out. And so we're looking for markets that can sustain a P&L for a team. And Denver has those things. It's got the demographics you look for in higher education families and youth sports participation. It has a history in soccer that's really powerful. So Colorado has produced more women for the U.S. women's national team than any other state per capita. And it's tied with California for the most youth girls participation in sports per capita, which meant we were going to have a solid fan base. At least that was our belief, and it's proven true. We had 15,500 season ticket deposits when we started converting 3 weeks ago. That's converted to 8,500 season tickets, which we've had to cap already because our temporary stadium will only fit 12,000. So we've capped it at 8,500. We have a wait list already. I didn't even have a wait list at the Commanders yet when I was there. We have a wait list already. We've closed what we think is a monumental sponsorship deal for women's sports with the naming rights of our practice facility. And we're going to open our first game at Empower Field, the Denver Broncos Stadium. And we had 1 day of sales. We sold 18,000 tickets for that already. Now, all of that is wonderful, and it bodes well for the business and for women's sports overall. But what's most interesting to us is that in our season ticket member base, only 15% of those fans have bought a season ticket to another team sport in Denver. And this was surprising to us. We actually went and checked with several WNBA teams that were shared with their NBA counterpart, because I thought we did the number wrong. All those had less than 10% overlap between their women's season ticket base and their men's, which means these are net new participators in sports. So this is the growth engine for all of sports, not just for women and girls.
So clear economic impact, and of course you have the new stadium. What's been the cultural impact? Like what's the, just the feeling and the sense in the city right now?
Oh, I think there's just so much excitement in Denver. It is the most exciting sports thing in Denver. But the opportunity for women's sports to drive broader economic impact is very present. First, it's easy to do public-private partnerships with women's sports because the case for social impact is so much more clear. You don't get into this debate of, should billionaires have money from the government and all that. Like, no, this is about women and girls. And it's super clear the impact, both from role modeling, from what it changes in the mindsets of families. Melody says this really well. When we think about sports right now, we see a whole generation of young millennial families and younger. The way that my generation saw marriage and gay marriage, we called it gay marriage. Now, my kids just call it marriage. This is the same thing that's happening in sports.
Yep.
It was women's sports. You have a whole set of folks where it is just sports. And having it prominent in world-class facilities with a good revenue-generating model helps that to happen. And then we've been able to do something really cool. In Centennial, Colorado, our temporary stadium will be handed back over to the school district when we're done and will become their municipal stadium.
It's awesome. We of course, through advocacy from Alex and so many colleagues, are excited to have a WNBA team coming to Philadelphia in 2030. What kinds of lessons can cities like Philadelphia and other cities learn just from, how you're attracting women's pro sports team? What should cities think about?
I think one, don't forget your original fan base, which people can pejoratively call activists. But they were the ones who were passionate before this was making money. They are still around. They want to see a good product too. Don't forget them. Don't throw them by the wayside. And at the same time, recognize the fan base is much bigger now. It includes men, it includes boys, it includes everybody. Lean into youth sports and families. That's where we're finding a ton of value. Take advantage of the ability to have public-private partnerships that are easier to do than in men's sports because it's super clear. And maybe most importantly is ignore the haters. Mm-hmm. There are still keyboard warriors that have not done anything athletic since they were 12 years old who will say, I don't want to buy tickets to the WNBA team. They don't even dunk. You've never sniffed a rim in your life. So we're not going to listen to you because there is real commercial momentum behind this. And those voices can be loud, but they are no longer the majority. And there's a real moment to do something special that also makes people a lot of money. You guys are going to make great money on this WNBA team. I mentioned this earlier, $450 million is maybe the most valuable women's team. That's not even substantiated, but let's say it's $450 million. The largest men's teams, so the Lakers and the Warriors and the Yankees, they're $12 billion, $13 billion. Dallas Cowboys, $13 billion. Call those, like, in stock terms, NVIDIA and Microsoft. Mm-hmm. Women's sports is the small caps of sports. They're going to have massive growth value, and if we're smart as investors, this is going to do really well. The keyboard warriors in the room felt that. Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing like, youth sports to turn a keyboard warrior into a sports fan, right? I mean, when your child is out there on that field, I have not watched like one hockey game, but I have two sons that play and, all in for whatever reason, even though I don't like cold rinks, but it works out. But Alex, let's dig in a little bit deeper on Unrivaled, the financial effect. We talked about the immediate impact you saw in ticket sales, but what do you think about in terms of economic impact more broadly for Unrivaled? As you mentioned, people got into women's sports just because they thought we should, and now there's real economic opportunity that we're able to have. So when you think about that for Unrivaled, what's next?
Well, and Unrivaled, a bit, to what you said, Unrivaled, it's the second year, so they were created
Still
in
early.
2024, and, so this is the second year in the play. And they were valued, the first year, they were valued at $27 million today within a year, and it's about, $320 million. This is just 1 year. So to your point, as far as, investments, but it's also the whole ecosystem around, women's sports and Unrivaled. What it brings, in the impact is it's everything in between. Tourism, it's room, like just the weekend, they're coming in. We have so much going on with watch parties, sponsoring, events and rooms. We're working with the state, just to make sure people are, coming, they're staying the weekend, so. Of course, to get the tax, money behind, But so the impact, is very big. It's much bigger than what we see on TV. It's like it's the whole, community getting together, on the business side and personal side, the fans, getting together to push that. And it's something we forget, but it's also, Unrivaled. We don't have the data yet, for Philadelphia. We're getting the data hopefully soon with the zip codes But Unrivaled in Miami, it's 73% of the people going to the game in Miami is out of state. Mm-hmm. So imagine all those people coming, So in Philadelphia, what's amazing is we are so central, between New York and DC. It's easy to get here, driving, taking the train. It's not like Miami, you have to fly. So that's going to be bringing a lot of people. Even if they don't have seats, they're going to bring just to be part of it. We're having huge events the night before and the night after, actually. So stay tuned, for more. But that's going to be a long weekend. And, just as far as, economic impact, the Final Four in the Indy last year, 2024, they said, they brought, about $400 million on that weekend to the city of, Indianapolis. So it's huge.
Well, Alex, listen, we thank you for taking Wanda up on that challenge. We appreciate you, all the advocacy for bringing sports, more to come for Unrivaled. Yes. Jason, can't wait to hear what's next for Project Level, seeing that money hopefully will touch Philly one day. Yeah. But we appreciate you. So thanks to our panel, Jason Wright, Alex Sykes.
Thank you.
Thank you.